may be one of the most anticipated games of the season. And of course, a lot on the line. Once again, this week across the college football landscape, here it's number 1 Georgia taking on number 8 Alabama for the SEC Championship for Bama. This is their one shot at the CFP for Georgia. A win solidifies their number 1 spot as they go into the postseason. We'll be ready for that and everything else happening across the college football landscape. Welcome to Countdown to College Game Day, presented by Dr. Pepper. Christine Williamson, Harry Lyles Jr., and Harry Douglas in the building. We're inside today, guys.
Sure
so
are.
it's a controlled atmosphere a little bit.
Thank goodness, because it is raining outside.
Yeah, it's raining and cold outside here in Atlanta, Georgia, but it's totally fine. As I mentioned, a lot on the line today. There was also a lot on the line last night because it was the end of the Pac-12. Yes. And it's very sad. So we're going to start this show off with 3 Pac-12 things because we will never see the Pac-12 look like it does this season. Lyles, you start us off.
I mean, for me, it's very basic. Starting here is the regionality of the conference because it makes sense because all the teams are on the West Coast. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but we're here for the SEC title game. This conference is great because of the regionality of it. That is what makes college football great. And we are losing one of the best that we've got. Everything that comes with the tradition in the Pac-12. We know all about the history, whether that's the Rose Bowl, whether that's, a game that we saw last night between Oregon and Washington, which, hey, they'll still be rivals, but in the Big Ten, I guess. So, look, man, college football, we're always going to love it, but to lose the regionality of it, I think, is a massive loss and something that we're all going to miss. And, hey, if we're lucky, maybe we'll come back one day, right?
Yeah, no more Pac-12 after dark. A very sad day. Okay, HD, what do you got?
I think for me this season, the phenomenal quarterback play, and we've seen 2 of those quarterbacks last night, and Michael Penix Jr. and Bo Nix, 2 guys that are up for the Heisman Trophy right now at this moment. But then Caleb Williams at USC, a guy who won the Heisman Trophy a year ago in 2022. You look at Cameron Ward at Washington State and what he was able to bring, Shedeur Sanders at Colorado, DJ Uiagalelei at Oregon State. So all those quarterbacks being able to provide a lot of fireworks and high-scoring offenses. 4 of those guys I just mentioned are top 6 right now in college football when it comes to passing. So I really enjoyed that great quarterback play this season. And for most of the season, the Pac-12 was the most exciting.
Yeah.
When you've seen the high-scoring games, the receivers just going crazy, running backs rushing for a lot of yardage. So, and the offense is just putting up numbers week in and week out. So I'm going to miss that about the Pac-12.
Yeah, for sure. Certainly a great way to end off the Pac-12 conference. Another way to end off the Pac-12 conference that was really good is the championship we got last night. We're going to talk about highlights in a brief second, but I want to talk about the MVP of the game because I texted you guys, how does Michael Penix Jr. look like he just got out the shower after a football game?
Yeah, can you explain that one?
His face was, I was like, he has amazing skin. Like when you looked at him, like when he was standing, when he's talking to Holly post game, I'm like,
I think he deserves an NIL deal for his skin.
For his skincare. His skin is immaculate. That's all I got to say about the quarterback. No, I have more to say about the quarterback. We're going to get into the highlights right now. Washington taking on Oregon in the Pac-12 championship. They went out on a high note with a 34-31 win for Washington. It was a classic. The Huskies dominated early, outgaining the Ducks 117-9 in their first quarter and kept it rolling. Dylan Johnson had 159 yards, 2 touchdowns, 28 carries, and Jalen Milroe and Rome Odunze each went over 100 yards receiving. Washington was 10-15 on 3rd down in the game and finished 13-0 for the first time in program history. I mean, that's a way to go out. How impressive was Dylan Johnson in this game, Lyles?
I mean, for as great as the receivers are on this Washington team, and HD will tell you about them in a second, I never thought that I could have the idea that, hey, you know what? They just need to keep giving 7 the ball.
Yeah.
Because the statement that they just kept making in terms of just running it down their throat, I mean, you saw it early on, how much more physical they were in HD. You know how it is, man. Like, one of the most dominant things you can do, one of the ways that you can make the biggest statement in any football game is run it down a team's throat, and they did that the entire time.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned the fact that HD has something to say about the receivers on this team. What impressed you about them?
Yeah, for me, it was the 3 Musketeers, or 3 the hard way. It was McMillan, it was Rome Odunze, it was also Jalen Pope. Those guys were phenomenal. So phenomenal, 10 for 15 on 3rd downs. They played a huge part in that. 6 for 6 on 3rd downs. in the second half, Jalen McMillan had 2 big third down catches, 32-6, that basically clinched the game for the Washington Huskies. And I would also say this, the time of possessions, to your point, Lyles, when you look at Washington, they held the ball 14 more minutes, more so than Oregon did. That's saying something. It's demoralizing when you can move a man from point A to point B against his will, and you can control the clock in that manner. So I give a lot of credit to those 3 receivers, but I also have to mention Dylan Johnson that you brought up a few minutes ago.
Yeah, and you know, you mentioned going to them, the receivers on those short yardage situations. They did that on that drive, that second to last drive that they had in the fourth quarter. When you are running the ball so well and you just decide, hey, you know what, we're actually just going to go to the receivers here in the short yardage situation late in the game where you're trying to burn clock. Like, they could not have made any greater of a statement as to, hey, we are the better football team tonight.
For sure.
Because they got anything that they wanted.
And I would say this about Oregon. Those third downs that McMillan caught, a coach told me if a safety guards you son at the wide receiver position, take off our uniform, don't come back. McMillan said the same thing. I'm not letting a safety guard me one-on-one when the game is on the line. Ching, ching.
Yeah, it was certainly a good one. And another thing that happened in that matchup last night, because as we know, Heismans are won definitely in conference championships. That's why it's so important for these teams to play in it. The biggest impact nationally was that LSU's Jayden Daniels may have locked up the Heisman without even playing. Bo Nix was minus 200 odds to win entering this game. He finished 3rd in the Heisman odds at plus 1,500. Daniels now is the clear leader at minus 1,400. The last Heisman winner from a team with 3 losses was Lamar Jackson in 2016. So, HG, I'm going to ask you this. Is Daniels your Heisman winner?
100%. And he was my Heisman winner before the game was even played last night. And even our colleague Ryan Clark tweeted that before this game. Hey, Jayden Daniels is the Heisman Trophy winner, or he should be the guy that wins it. You talk about everything that he was able to accomplish this season. It's not his fault that the defense let that football team down and couldn't get stops. He did everything that he could to put his team in the right positions to be successful. Rushing the football, throwing the football, being a leader. So Jayden Daniels, in my opinion, is the Heisman Trophy for this year, and I hope it finishes that way.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so as we know, as we've mentioned, the Pac-12 is ending this season. It's now the Pac-2. Who knows what's going to happen with Washington State and Oregon State. However, since we're never going to see the Pac-12 ever again in this capacity, we had to do a Pac-12 wrap, kind of like you do a Spotify wrap, a Apple Music wrap. Okay, so here's a little summary of what you saw this year. Comebacks in the East Coast we will never see, right? There were 39,527 minutes of epic comebacks. That's huge. Viewing habits are most similar to those who live in Tempe, Arizona. That makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? The top 0.5% fan of Puddles, the duck, which, of course, that makes sense.
Yeah, that would be my choice.
You also saw the most championships. South Carolina, Washington, UCLA, Stanford, Cal. Sad, sad day for them. The best games. You played over 749 total games, but 5 really stand out.
For sure.
The play.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Number 7, Oregon defeating Arizona State. Number 2, USC defeating number 1, UCLA. Stanford defeating number 2. I mean, these are all really solid games, so we're not going to get this anymore.
No, and that's incredibly sad because, I mean, those are all iconic shots in not just Pac-12 history, but college football.
Yeah, for sure. It's a very sad, sad day. But, of course, we are here for the SEC Championship, and a lot is on the line when Alabama takes on Georgia.
This thing right here was built for this.
Georgia and Bama in the SEC Championship, I don't think it gets any bigger than that.
2 powerhouses just going head-to-head.
It's 2 massive giants going up against each other, man.
It's going to be a dogfight.
We expect it to be physical.
The SEC Championship game against probably the best team in the country.
There's a lot at stake. You know, the rest of the team that aren't playing for the conference championship are at home watching us.
2 great teams battling for all 60 minutes. When you have the opportunity to seize it.
2 familiar Pac-12 toes or foes.
Hey,
Four-time Georgia and Alabama in the SEC Championship game. Bama has won the last 3 of these. Georgia looking for their 30th win in a row. HD, both of these teams have evolved a lot this season as it's gone on. Which team is playing the best football currently right now?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Georgia Bulldogs. And you can also look at their schedule and that gauntlet that they went through their last 3 or 4 games and how they beat ranked teams, ranked in the top 15, top 18, and did it decisively. And when you look at this Georgia football team, I think they're well balanced. You look at the run game and how that's been effective lately. Last 5 games, they're averaging over 200 yards, and Kendall Milton has been on a tear. That offensive line is playing well. But I think when you look at Carson Beck and the way he's been consistent all season long and orchestrating things at the quarterback position and getting that offense up to par, I would say the Georgia Bulldogs right now collectively, top to bottom, defensively, offensively, and special teams.
Okay, so HG just talked about how Carson Beck has been consistent the entire football season. Jalen Milroe started off the season a little wobbly, but he has since definitely improved. In what ways have you seen improvement from him?
One of the ways is he's taking less sacks, which is important. And with him, the early portion of the season, with a younger quarterback with less reps, you want to make sure you're protecting the football, and he's been doing that ever since he got benched. Even in fact, just the last 4 games, because that's the most recent sample size. 15 touchdowns, just 1 turnover. That's huge. Like, he's very clearly talented. Like, and it's funny, I think it was Kirby Smart that was comparing him to Lamar Jackson. I basically say he's Lamar Jackson with a weight program, basically. And I mean, look, like, whether it's with the running, he could beat you with his arm, but he's been doing such a better job of playing within himself. Because you look and see the potential. Like, it's not like Jalen Milroe is not a highly touted recruit. Like, he is. It's just been a matter of him getting comfortable, knowing what he can and cannot do, playing within that, and learning his weapons as well. And he might be missing one of those today in Jace McClellan, which would be a big deal. But I honestly don't think that is a big of a deal as it would have been 6 or 8 weeks ago. So he's in a good spot going into tonight's game.
HG, how do you think that this Alabama team needs to prepare for Jalen Milroe?
I would say Georgia's defense, they have to have a spy on him. Because when I watched the game against LSU, there were numerous of occasions where he was rushing the football, picking up first downs on 3rd down. And I just don't think you can sit there and just play a normal defense and say, you know what, we're going to let Jalen Milroe run around and do any and everything that he possibly can. You got to have a spy on him. Also, when I look at this matchup, they have a guy in Jermaine Burton that used to play for the Georgia Bulldogs. You want to know who Jalen Milroe's big play guy is? It's Jermaine Burton. You talk about explosive plays. He's averaging over 20 yards per catch. So look for that today as well. I want to see how Georgia's going to be able to defend the big play to Jermaine Burton from Jalen Milroe.
That game today, 4 p.m. Eastern on CBS, the final SEC game for CBS. All right, let's go to the ACC Championship. I know you want to talk about this one, HD. It's the 12-0 nose for the 4th time in program history. Louisville coming off a top loss to rival Kentucky last weekend. Big news in this game is the availability of Tate Rodemaker. He took a rough hit late in the 4th quarter last week and is reported to be in concussion protocol. If he can't go today, Lyles, how does that change the game?
Look, Mike Norvell said that their game plan is mostly the same, right? You were already playing behind the 8 ball because you are playing without Jordan Travis, your Heisman Trophy candidate. Look, obviously, HD, you are much more well-versed on these receivers than I am, but Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson, hey, man, as long as you got those weapons at your disposal, you got a shot, young man. You know what I mean? Like, so if you're Florida State, do you love it? No, especially going up against the Louisville defense when, hey, man, when they decide that they want to play ball and be physical and really wear you down, they can do that. And I'm sure if they look across the line, even if it is Tate Rodemaker, if you're Louisville's defense, you should feel pretty confident today, but you should not sleep on this Florida State offense no matter what today because, again, they're just too talented. Okay,
HD, you were talking earlier this morning about how Louisville's going to win this game. How exactly are they going to get it done?
I'll say number one, if Brock Glenn is a 3rd-string quarterback, if he's going to play in this football game, you cannot allow Florida State to rush the football effectively. So stop the run, and you force that young man to beat you. And I like the chances of Louisville if that happens because you have a guy over there on that defensive line, Ashton Gelati. And if you give him an opportunity to go get you, he going to go get you. So Ashton Gelati, if you have a good game, I'm going to get you some gelato, get you a little ice cream so you can have a hell of a time today, maybe on championship weekend. But I will also say this, when you look at Florida State, their closest games this season, Clemson, Boston College, Miami, those games right there, and even the Florida game, 3 of those 4 games, one of the reasons why they were close is because 3 of those teams own the time of possession. They were able to rush the football effectively. Louisville is one of the better rushing teams in college football, and also their explosive play game.
All right, we'll see if they are able to get it done. We already know AC going to be dancing all over the place
I'm gonna be on one, ladies
if they
and
do. All right, let's take a look at the college football playoff odds and scenarios, because the current odds to win the CFP, Georgia at plus 160, as is Michigan, Washington plus 700, Texas plus 900, Bama right there at plus 1100. To you guys, who are the actual 4 best teams in college football right now, Lyles?
I'm going Georgia, I'm going Michigan, I'm going Washington, definitely after what we saw last night.
Right.
And I'm going to go Florida State. I mean, if they end up winning, if Florida State doesn't win, I think my next pick would be Texas. But obviously, we still have that to be seen. And I have some questions about that game, obviously, which we'll talk about later. But I think those would be my 4.
What do you got?
Yeah, for me, it's Georgia number 1. I have Michigan at number 2, Washington number 3. Now, this is where the confusion comes at number 4. You have Florida State, you have Texas, you have Alabama. I got Alabama right now because of the way they're playing football. We understand that if they lose today, they're going to be out of things. If they win today, there's going to be a lot of chaos in that committee room.
Okay, so we like a little chaos.
Yes.
The question is, if Alabama does win this matchup, do we think that Georgia and Alabama will be in the CFP?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's play this game, right? Let's just imagine Florida State wins.
Right.
Because then the question becomes, are you going to leave out Georgia, who up until today had won 29 games in a row and has honestly looked like the best team in college football this year, despite a slow start? Are you going to leave them out for an undefeated Florida State team who a lot of people are down on? I think this is where you have to be more realistic about, hey, like, yes, it is about having the 4 best teams, but at what point do you have to meet the most deserving? Because are you going to leave out an undefeated ACC champion? I know if Miami went undefeated, right, and they left them out, Christine would tear this place down, boy.
It would be
you know what I mean?
Too bad it's not the 90s.
So would you be comfortable doing that? Right? Like taking Georgia over Florida State.
That's the hard thing, because Florida State, they played their schedule. They handled their business. Like who they play on their schedule, they can't do anything about that. There's a lot of people trying to say about the Cowboys and Dak Prescott, hey, you play who's on your schedule. Right? So I think if Florida State wins today and they go undefeated, I think they kind of have to get in.
Yeah.
That would be such an interesting scenario. So do you think that if Florida State has any danger of falling out if, in fact, they do go 13-0? What is the scenario there?
Okay, so
how does it look?
It could be okay. So that's the thing, though. It could be tough because so let's say Alabama does win. You just beat the number 1 team in the country. If you put Alabama in, and let's just say Texas wins, are you going to leave Texas out?
You can't, because they beat them head-to-head on the road.
Exactly.
So then, do you leave Florida State out for Texas?
Well, so here's the thing. I think context matters here. Because if Florida State struggles against Louisville and it's a back-and-forth game and they don't have a deciding victory, I think now you are able to make some decisions that you probably didn't think you were going to make beforehand.
Yeah, I'm just glad I'm not on the committee, because if you had to pick in that scenario, that's tough, man.
You know what the committee is hoping for right now? They're hoping Georgia wins this football game today.
They need that
can eliminate a lot of craziness from happening.
Right, for sure. I also feel like they don't want Florida State to win, because then it kind of makes things a little bit easier in that regard. But what about Ohio State? Obviously, they lost to Michigan. They're not playing in the Big Ten Championship. Do you think that there's a shot for them to make it into the CFP?
I mean, if the cards fall their way, yes. But, I mean, man, you need a lot of help, man. You know what I mean? That is some heavy lifting.
So I'm gonna say this: I have shoestrings in my shoes right now. Ohio State is holding on by shoestrings. They need any and everything to happen. Every crazy thing possible that can happen today, Ohio State probably needs to happen.
Well, they would need Georgia, Louisville, and Oklahoma State to win. That would take out Texas. Obviously, it would take out Alabama, and it would take out Florida State. So that would cause a little bit of chaos. But, I mean, it's not impossible for it to happen. All right, let's look ahead a little bit. Time now for the Fansville Advantage, presented by Dr. Pepper. With the Washington-Michigan Rose Bowl looking very likely for the semis, HG, what are your thoughts on that matchup?
The granddaddy of them all, right? It's the greatest venue in college football. When you talk about playing at a destination that's not your home field for a bowl game, for the Rose Bowl. Had an opportunity to visit that place when I was a kid. I've been dying to get back for a football game, a college football game. So I just think it's going to be amazing. And to be able to have 2 teams represent the Rose Bowl in a normal fashion, I think it's going to be any and everything, man, and what college football fans really want.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think, Lyles?
I mean, yes, I'm glad it is a Pac-12 Big Ten matchup tradition. And, I mean, how could you just not be excited for this game after what we saw from Michigan last week, what we'll probably see from them tonight, and what we just saw from Washington?
Yep.
I mean, that matchup, we don't know what the 1 versus 4 matchup is going to be. We obviously expect that to be the 2-3. Hey, man. Like, keep that. I want that Rose Bowl.
You know what I'm anticipating? If those two teams do match up, the secondary of Michigan versus those wide receivers of Washington.
Yeah.
That in itself, man, is going to be a highlight.
Quickly, who do you like to win it all?
To win it all? Georgia.
Okay.
Go Georgia Bulldogs.
Georgia.
Wow, that was very interesting.
Like?
I think Georgia's going to win it all.
Okay.
Well,
you could have sang too.
Sorry, I didn't want to.
Are you cheesy?
I am cheesy.
How cheesy?
Super cheesy.
How much do you love Cheez-Its?
I love cheesy.
How much?
I love cheesy. I love it.
Are y'all feeling the Cheez-Its?
Yeah.
Whoa, okay.
Sorry, Mom.
How much again? That's what I'm talking about, baby. It is now time to honor the fan that's feeling the cheesiest with the cheesiest chain. Reserved for college football, most passionate fans, the ones who show up on Saturdays feeling the cheesiest. And I'm here with Andrew. And Andrew, something's a little weird to me because we're here at the SEC Championship game. You have on Michigan gear, and I know you're on your Connor Stallions. I know you're on that. So tell me, why are you here this morning?
I'm actually here for work this morning.
You're here for work.
I am actually here for work.
And you representing your school.
Absolutely.
So let me ask these Georgia fans around, how do y'all feel about Andrew being here right now? But Andrew, you know what? I admire you. You want to know why? Because Michigan this season has showed up and showed out. You're here right now representing your school in front of Dogs fans, in front of Crimson Tide fans, and that's why you're the cheesiest fan today. And you want a chain, a replica just like mine, Andrew. So Andrew, give me some depth. What do you think Michigan? Relax a little bit there. Just relax. What do you think Michigan is going to do today?
I absolutely think they're going to crush and get the spread on today.
Okay.
I think they're going to hit the spread.
All right, so who do you think is going to win the Georgia-Alabama game?
I kind of want Alabama to win just so that we can take top number 1 and prove it.
So last one I have for you. You predict that Michigan is going to win. Who do you want to play in the college football playoffs?
I would want to play Texas.
Oh, that's who you want to play, Texas?
I want to play Texas in football.
Okay. Well, Andrew, thank you for coming out to the SEC Championship game and being the cheesiest fan. Christine, back to you.
Go
Blue! Conference title. And the Longhorns' first college football playoff appearance on the line before the SEC comes calling.
Us leading the Big 12, we would like to win it.
Doesn't matter how we win, doesn't matter where we're at, we just win.
Respect them, but we don't fear them. To beat them would be pretty special.
Send them off the right way.
Face the challenge, and to do it on a big stage, a nice way to end our farewell tour in the Big 12.
Gordon straight ahead and a big hole. Ollie on the loose. 30, 20, 10, 5. Touchdown Oklahoma State.
Always a special player, the best running back in college football.
He can make people miss in space. He can run people over in the hole. He's got the whole package.
The offense runs through him, and he's their heartbeat.
This guy's a nightmare for Texas opponents.
Texas' defense, big, and they're fast on the back end.
They're strong, they're tough, they're relentless. They're going to come in there and hit you.
Me and the guys, we're going to go play our brand of football, and everybody see who's the best.
Yep, another really good one in the Big 12. Texas still with a chance to make the CFP, 48% according to the All-State Playoff Predictor. 2-touchdown favorite entering this game and, of course, hoping to end a 13-year conference title drought. HD, how does Texas slow down Ollie Gordon and the Pokes rushing attack?
Those defensive tackles that they have, Murphy the second and Sweat. We also got to look at Texas this season. They're top 5 in rushing defense.
Yep.
Also, their third down defense is phenomenal. But if you can stop or slow Ollie Gordon the second down and force their quarterback of Oklahoma State to beat you and put him in third and long situations, then I like Texas and the Longhorns and their chances to win this game today in a blowout fashion too.
Yeah, it'll be certainly very interesting. I want to ask you really quickly, Lyles, Quinn Ewers could possibly announce that this is his last season in Austin. What do you think how does that impact Malik Murphy and, of course, Arch Manning?
Portal season, baby. Hit him up. Get that bag. I mean, no, look. I think Arch obviously, excuse me, has a lot of work to do,
Right.
and that's part of why we really just didn't see him this season. It's a long off season, man.
Yeah.
You got a couple of portal windows. You got a ton of talent on this Texas team. You really don't know what the minds or what's going through the minds of those young men. Obviously, Malik Murphy, he looked pretty good when we saw him this year. If you're Arch Manning,
Right.
you've heard the hype. You know people want to see you. Are you going to stick around? I think they'll both stick it out and compete, and then you've got that spring window. If they decide, hey, I realize this is not for me, then you'll probably see one of them jump in the portal.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, there Corso choosing his helmets for today. Let's go to the Big Ten Championship. This one we're not talking about as much because as long as they win, it's not as much on the line. The return of Coach Harbaugh, though, for Michigan, back for the second time off a 3-game suspension this season. The Wolverines riding a high off their win over Ohio State, 3-touchdown favorite in this game against Iowa. HC, do you think there's any danger of a letdown against a very good Iowa defense?
No. How is Iowa going to score? I don't know how they're going to score.
They're hitting them pick six.
We understand their defense is great year in and year out, and Iowa's known for their tight ends, their offensive linemen, defensive players. But my thing is, and my issue in this matchup, Michigan defense, their defense is solid. How is Iowa going to score the football and score points to beat Michigan? I don't see that happening today.
The most important thing in this game, though, Jim Harbaugh, Michigan, you have the opportunity to just really lean into this whole America's team thing.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, man, if he don't walk out to Many Men by 50 Cent, you know what I'm saying? Come on, man. Lean into it. Do it.
It's doing a lot.
Great,
but we
great
love to
for
see it.
social. Just do it.
I like the petty.
Yeah.
Do it.
We'll see what happens in that one. All right, guys, it is V Week at ESPN when we partner with the V Foundation to highlight the urgent need for cancer research. This is a game-changing research that helps save lives. You can join the fight against cancer by visiting v.org/donate. 100% of your donation goes directly to cancer research. And with that, we welcome in the sheriff, the authority, the one and only Pete Thamel. Do you like your nicknames? I feel like we've never asked you that question specifically.
I mean, they're all generally positive.
Yeah.
So
What's your favorite? Is Pistol Pete your favorite?
I like Pistol Pete.
Okay.
I like Pistol Pete. Makes me feel like a mascot.
Yes, the mascot of college football insiders. Okay, so Pete, obviously it's that time of year, right? We've seen a lot of coaching vacancies open up as the season has winded down. What vacancies should we keep our eye on moving forward?
Well, the two biggest remaining, Christine, are Houston and Duke. Duke is in the early stages of their search. They're expected to interview candidates in the upcoming days at the Football Foundation event in Las Vegas. I'd expect Duke, they have a wide net at this point. They haven't really zeroed in on anyone. I think Alex Atkins, the FSU OC, is a name. Manny Diaz, the defensive coordinator at Penn State, is a name there. They like Willie Fritz, who obviously transitioning to Houston is a candidate there. We identified Willie as Houston's top target when this happened. He and Jeff Traylor are the expected targets at Houston. They have not picked a coach yet. Willie obviously has a game to coach today. There's no decisions that have been made, but it seems like he's going to have some decisions to make in the 24 hours following this AAC title game.
I think the most eye-opening one so far for me is Jonathan Smith going to Michigan State.
Sure.
And part of that had to do with, Oregon State and the Pac-12 and it dismantling and whatnot. What are your thoughts on that?
Harry, I mean, that was a really emotional decision for Jonathan Smith. He's a former Oregon State quarterback. He came back and he revived his alma mater, brick by brick, step by step, brought him from an irrelevant team to a top 25 program, really built that place up. So for him to leave because of the extenuating circumstances with the Pac-2 was a difficult decision for him. He's not a Midwest guy, really hasn't spent that much time in that footprint, but he's an excellent coach who, again, that program is built on what? Player development, right?
That's
Mark
right.
D'Antonio, you have to find the 3 stars and develop them into NFL players. He's shown he can do that at Oregon State. Seems to be a transferable skill. It's the cultural development and the geographic development that's the question. Can he replicate what he did in the Pacific Northwest in the upper Midwest?
And, one of the ones that has stuck out to me is Indiana and Kurt Signetti.
Sure.
Obviously, he had a great year at JMU and then carried on that success that Mike Houston had obviously started. But it really seems like Indiana's making a push where, coming off of 2020, the big year they had with Michael Penix, they realized hey, we could play a little bit of football if we decide to. What are you sort of seeing there, not just with that hire, but sort of with what seems like a cultural shift at Indiana?
Yeah, it's a good point, Harry. I think there's 15 million reasons to think Indiana's taking football seriously because that's what they're paying Tom Allen not to coach. Yeah. So it's also a little bit of, hey, we need to get to the big boy table or we're going to get left further and further behind. And the unspoken thing there is that in the next round of conference realignment, leagues aren't getting bigger.
Yep.
They're going to get smaller.
Yep.
And you need to have football ready so you don't give anybody an excuse to leave you behind. And I think this is Indiana's play to do that. Kurt Signetti's won everywhere he's gone. He won at Indiana University, Pennsylvania. He won big at Elon. He won huge at James Madison. Going 11-1 in a transition season is stupefying. He was Nick Saban's recruiting coordinator at Alabama when Saban took the job there. He's an exacting coach. He's demanding. He is going to get them competitive quickly with the Illinois, with the Purdue's, with their peers in that league. But where's the commitment? Where's the commitment to the stadium? Where's the commitment to NIL? Recruiting is now really just a euphemism for what's your recruiting budget. Right. And if they have a recruiting budget, they'll be able to win football games at Indiana. For sure.
All right, so Harry Lyles earlier said that it's transfer portal season, which we obviously know. If you have Pete Thamel's notifications on X, then you're seeing that there's a new quarterback in the transfer portal every second, it feels like. Nebraska head coach Matt Rule had to talk about the transfer portal and quarterback specifically. Take a listen.
Make no mistake that a good quarterback in the portal costs $1 million to $1.5 million to $2 million right now. So just on the same page, right? So let's make sure we all understand what's happening. So there's some teams that have $6 or $7 million players playing for them. So we just kind of believe in doing things like the old school way, the hard way, building. But that doesn't mean we won't look at people in the portal. We did it last year, right? It just means they have to be clearly an impact player for us if they're like a one-year player, or they have to be someone that has multiple years to get in our program and develop.
All right, Pete, you obviously talk to a lot of coaches all the time. So what are they saying about this transfer portal in the current market?
Well, Matt Rule said the quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
If you want a big-time quarterback, it's going to cost 7 figures. And quite frankly, this portal class, there's a handful of guys who could command that on the open market. When you look at Riley Leonard right now leaving Duke, we reported that Notre Dame is expected to target him. That's going to be a 7-figure transaction. Cam Ward leaving Washington State, going to be a 7-figure transaction. Guys like Blake Shapen, guys who started a ton of college games, he may not command 7 figures, but to have an experienced, proven quarterback is a difference maker in a $100 million organization. So it makes sense. You'd pay $1 million.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of money on the line when it comes to quarterbacks. Pete Thamel, also very expensive. Thank you so much for joining us.
Not true.
Of course.
Sources do not confirm.
All right, let's get some game picks in here because obviously SEC Championship, a lot on the line. We talked about it the entire show. HJ, who do you have in this matchup?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Georgia Bulldogs. I like their run game. I like their quarterback. I like their skill position players. Bulldogs in a close one.
Okay.
I'm going with Georgia for all the same reasons, man. This just feels like the year. They're going to go 3 in a row.
Okay, I'm also choosing Georgia.
There you go.
Okay.
You're welcome. Let's see who the fans chose in this matchup. I feel like they're going to go with Georgia, too. 63%. Okay, why is it always 63% choosing? I feel like this is rigged. I don't know. That's all I got to say. Anyways, thanks, guys, for watching Countdown to College Game Day presented by Dr. Pepper. We will be with you very soon. We'll see you then.